Welcome to The Overcomers, where stories of triumph shine bright. Join us for a powerful new episode as we sit down with Cassie, who bravely shares her journey of overcoming trauma. On this channel, we celebrate resilience and the human spirit. Get ready to be moved. I am honored to be here today with my friend Cassie Wilson. Cassie, thank you so much for joining us today on The Overcomers.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, a few things about Cassie in case you haven't had the pleasure, like I have, of getting to know her. She's a mom of 7 and soon to be author, joining us from Washington State. She's overcome a lot in life, from being in poverty, being broken, and feeling totally lost. Now she's in a much different place, happily married, an amazing mom, and a courageous overcomer who's putting pen to paper to tell the story, the whole story, as she learned to let go. But what I'm blown away most by with you, Cassie, is your humility. When we last saw each other recently, it had been, I think, like 3 or 4 years since we had previously seen each other. And I was so blown away by how humble you were when I asked how life was now. You went straight to the heart and you didn't hold back. You were so authentic and so real about the truth of your past and how you dealt with you. It takes a huge amount of humility to not only be willing to dive in and ask those tough questions about yourself, but it's a whole other level when you freely share those lessons with other people, which you are now in writing your book, which I'm so excited about. So without further ado, Cassie, take us on that story. How'd you go from being in that place and feeling that way to where you are now?
Okay, lots to unpack here. So basically, growing up in a home that, when you're a baby and you're little, you don't know what's real. You think that, or you don't know what's, I guess, normal, or I don't even like that word, honestly, but like you don't really know what the average is. And so, growing up in a home where there was a lot of domestic violence and addiction and different things like that, it definitely shaped me into, I feel like you can go either way, either down a road of kind of becoming your environment and doing the same things you're seeing, or you can kind of do the opposite, right? And kind of go the other way. And I've kind of experienced a little bit of both in my life. And the part that I kind of feel drawn to highlight now is that, growing up and adapting these mindsets of this is who I am as a person by what's been shown to me by an example, which wasn't honestly that great, and coming into relationship. And that's kind of what I want to focus on because as I started to evolve as a young woman and started to kind of realize, like, okay, like, started to feel kind of attraction towards other people and everything, and I found quite quickly that men were not really drawn to me.
Mm.
And like I was like, oh, interesting. I thought that I would like that would be an easy thing for me. I thought that I was pretty likable, and I thought that I was going to just easily, I guess, find someone. And I remember in 6th grade specifically that I had this crush on this guy. And I remember like we were super poor growing up. And I remember I like saved my pennies and I went to the local store and I bought him this special Valentine candy. And I just, could hardly sleep the night before, and I like wrote him a letter, and like I was this was going to be the day that I was going to tell him how I felt.
Mm.
And I brought it to him, and I was just giddy the whole day, and like, just like so anticipating like this, fairy tale, so to speak. And I gave it to him at the end of the day of school, and he grabbed he grabbed it from me, and he looked at it, and he literally threw it on the ground and smashed it.
Oh.
Ugh, right? Like, just like it's just like, and so for like I had it all worked up in my head, like how it was gonna go, and then it went. the complete opposite, right? And so as, 6th grade, that's like you're literally like 11 years old. And I feel like that really like started a trajectory of my teenage years. And so as I kind of went and kind of was starting to pursue different relationships in my life, like trying to find love, I guess you would say, there was kind of a pattern that happened where the guys that I would attract kind of like used me in some way.
Mm.
And I'm just like, that's upon reflection. And like, I remember in 8th grade, this one guy, he was kind of popular. He started showing an interest in me, and I was like, oh, finally, right? Like, finally, someone. And come to find out, it was because he knew that my dad chewed Copenhagen and he wanted me to get it for him. Like, what?
Oh my
Right? So
God.
it's like, it was like, so like that type of like patterns kind of started to develop over time. And I was in some pretty abusive relationships, to be honest. And the part that kind of highlighted it is when I finally got married for the first time. So the first time I got married, and this is really vulnerable because I don't think I haven't really like talked about this a lot. Um, but going into this marriage, it was finally someone that like my dad approved of. It
Mm.
was finally someone that, you know, believed the same way as I did. It was finally someone that I would be viewed as I am in a successful relationship. And this is, by everybody else. Everybody else is viewing it as this is the way to go. And he was an amazing guy. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, he's a very nice guy and everything. The problem is that when we got together, it was a trauma bond. And
Mm.
are you familiar with what that is?
Oh.
Basically, like he was mourning his sister's suicide
Mm.
just weeks before the connection happened, before we got together. And so I was basically a friend to him, helping him through this very tragic time. And that's kind of where we bonded.
Mm.
And that was where we had a foundation of our relationship. And when you're in a mourning state or a trauma state, right? Like that's not your authentic that's not your like baseline of who you are, right? Your emotions are going to be a little bit different. You're going to be dealing with things a little bit different. And so we both came to the realization that this is who each other is within this tiny period of time. Like, okay, this is who I'm getting to know. And so we actually got engaged after dating for 1 month. So very quick. And so coming into this marriage, you have a mindset of how things should be. And we very quickly moved away from family because he was going to school in a different place. It was like 6 hours from my family. And believe it or not, what happened then when it's like when you're kind of ripped away from your family and you don't have a community, you're just stuck with you.
Mm.
Right? The real raw you. So all the things that I hadn't processed in my whole entire life and all the things I hadn't faced and just all the stuff showed up right in that moment. Yeah, so I was basically faced with everything that I had to, just me. I'm just there and I had nobody really. And the marriage that we were in, the issues that we were having is stuff you don't talk about.
Mm.
Right? It's stuff that you just don't talk about. And I would try to talk about it, and I would talk to a couple different friends, and I would kinda just, like, hint and be like, "Have you ever dealt with this in your marriage?" Or, how is this for you in your marriage?" And I would just kinda get feedback from my friends just to kinda see, like, because I thought maybe this is what everyone deals with, right? And come to find out, like, none of my friends were dealing with what I was dealing with, so I was like, "Well, I'm definitely not opening up about this," right? Because like, this is just, like, way out there, and so I just dealt with it, and it got worse and worse, and I didn't have the coping skills, and neither did he, really, honestly. And just the stress level and everything, it got so bad that that's when I started to kind of fall into different coping mechanisms that really, um, were shown to me in my upbringing. I started, falling into some addiction and things like that, like some different patterns that are just not healthy, and before I knew it, I'm just like a whole different person just trying to survive. And this was all from trying to basically live in this relationship that I basically had no idea
Mm.
how to even manage at all. Basically, like when you're in a situation where you don't feel comfortable talking about it to anybody and you don't like you're just becoming a bigger mess,
Mm.
right? You're becoming more of a mess inside. You don't have anyone to talk to. When you do talk to someone, you don't tell them the full story because you don't want them to judge you. Pretty soon you're fearing everyone's opinion. You're like stuck in this isolated bubble and you don't even know how to live, right? You're basically not even living your authentic self at all.
Mm.
You're just like, and so it honestly felt extremely isolating, and it felt like there was no hope, and I felt like I was stuck and that there was no way out.
Mm.
That's honestly how I felt, and I don't know if that's how he felt too, but without disclosing too much because I wanna respect him, like, we had some major fundamental differences on how we view relationship, marriage, parenting, finances, like, really honestly everything. Like, everything was different, and it was extremely hard to be in relationship to that. Didn't know what to do. And when it finally came when basically how I was able to get out of it or out of that season was, I hit rock bottom.
Mm.
So, I had my 3rd baby, and I hit rock bottom to where it was like I got caught basically. And I ended up going to prison. Not prison, sorry, jail. Um, and when I was in jail is honestly when I hit rock bottom and I was like, "Okay, like this is real.
Yeah.
Like this is actually hitting me in the face right now. Like what the heck did I just do and what right? Like where am I? Like who am I? I'm completely lost. I don't even know what way is up. I don't even know how I've been surviving, right? And while I was in jail, I called out to God and
Oh.
I was just like, "I know that you exist. I believe in you, but I need you to show up and I need you to show me like who you created me to be."
Mm.
Because I don't feel it. I don't see it, and I honestly, as far as I'm concerned, I felt like the biggest pile of poo, and I didn't it's like, "God, you gave me these beautiful babies, and I can't even hold it together." And it was just like it was just super, like, humiliating, and I was just, like, so, like and I can, like, feel it right now. I was, like, so full of shame, and
Mm.
I was just like I didn't wanna face anyone. I didn't even wanna, like it was just a horrible feeling right there, and it was just like, all of a sudden, it was like, this moment is, like, completely where it changed for me.
Mm.
I, like, heard and felt God for the first time in my life,
Oh.
and it was like it wasn't like a audible voice, but it was, like, just, like, in me, and it was just like, "I am here."
Mm.
And I felt like I was surrounded by, like, this, like, warm, like, blanket. I don't know how else to explain it, but it was just, like, so much love and, like, so much mercy. And it was like, I was instantly forgiven. It was like, it didn't matter what I had done. It didn't matter anything. It was like, just in an instant, everything was just, like, gone. And it was, like, so profound and, like, I forgot where I was. Like, I forgot that I was even in the jail. And anyways, like, walking out of that jail, I ended up getting bailed out, and walking out of that jail, it was like I knew that my life was gonna be forever changed. And
Mm.
so, that was honestly, like, I feel like the huge like, the last part of my life transformation into where I am now. that kind of like started it off. Does that make sense? It started the shift to actually like accepting like who I am, who's my God, right? Like
Yeah.
it started that whole thing for me. And so, yeah, I don't know if that answered your question. I got a little emotional there.
No, that's okay. And thank you for sharing that. And I think it's so beautiful. And I got tears in my eyes, just the fact that you cried out to your creator in that moment. And what did you experience? You experienced him. Just that message,
Yes.
I am here. So simple, but so profound and exactly what you needed right in that moment. It's
Yes.
beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So coming out of jail, and you said you went through this next season of really figuring out who you are. Tell us more about that and how you navigated then coming out and figuring those answers out.
Oh man, it's been a whole decade, honestly, of complete um life transformation. It started out extremely spiritual, I would say, because I was very awakened. It was like God was opening my eyes. And I have been a Christian my whole life, or so I thought. I mean, I have been in the Christian faith, but I never really knew God. I never really knew Jesus for myself. And so that experience is what really made it personal. And I started to like kind of receive more direction in my spirit to like where to go and what to do and how to be and how to not be, and basically like turn away from the ways that I was living. And I had asked God to, I said, if you, I like bargained with him, don't do this unless you're ready for something, because I said, God, if you can take away these addictions from me, I will do anything to serve you, like anything. And he's had me do all sorts of stuff, and sometimes it's not exactly what you think it's gonna be, and one of those being a spiritual gift that I've been given that sometimes feels very heavy. It feels very heavy to carry, but I know that I have to just go back to that moment
Mm,
that he's like, "Okay, you can do hard things, and this is why I gave this to you." Like, I have to remind myself because it is a heavy cross to bear, but I know that it just is part of the package of walking with Jesus. And yeah, part of it was very spiritual. Well, I'm still very spiritual, obviously, but like when I say very spiritual, it's like I was trying to like articulate life, I guess. Everything was so bright. Like the trees and the flowers and everything was so bright and like beautiful. It was like I was seeing a different life. It was like, and it was very difficult for me to like be around certain frequencies. Like I couldn't like listen to music like really at all. Like I could only handle like nature sounds and things like that. So yeah, that was how it was right after. And then it kind of like transitioned. I started kind of like, I was like, I gotta live on this earth. Like, how am I gonna function? And there was parts where I thought I was going kind of mentally ill, but I was like processing a lot of pain and a lot of trauma out of my body in a very quick matter of time. And it was that God was just
mm,
healing me from the inside out. And so, yeah, that was basically kind of how it was for that season coming out. And then in that season, I was still in my first marriage, and, like, he could see me changing, and, like, it almost, like, didn't matter, like, not that it didn't matter that I was married or not, it was just, like, my focus shifted to God, and
mm,
so it was almost like, "Okay, like, if this is what life is, then I'll deal with it," like, and I was able to cope a little bit better,
mm,
and so that was kind of, like, the shift there, and so yeah, I lived that way for just like, "Okay, this is life, and this is just it, and I didn't see any other option, and so I'm just gonna, like, make the best of it, basically."
mm,
And so, that was kind of, like, honestly amazing that God gave me that strength because it was like I was ready to just, like, stay married forever. Like, I would've, honestly, like, he was the one that actually filed, and so I honestly, like, in my mind, I'm so stubborn. And I, like, have such a will that I'm like, "Okay, like, I committed, we have these kids, like, I'm in it, like, I whatever." even if it's not aligning or even allowing, like, in the relationship was not growing, but it's like I was growing with God, and it was like, that's just I had to stay focused on that, so
Wow. It's amazing the amount of strength that you can now see, really post that moment in your entire journey. And I know this is only a brief glimpse of what you've been through, but it's so beautiful to me and inspiring to see the amount of strength that just literally is radiating off of you as you tell this story.
oh,
You can see it. And to hear that it like really got deposited right in that moment when he said, "I am here." It literally,
yes.
you said you felt that warm, just embrace around you. What if in that very moment was when his strength just literally went boom right onto you as well?
Absolutely, I feel that.
Um,
Absolutely.
so one, I want to make sure to remind everybody there is so much more to Cassie's story that you guys got to hear that I know she would love to share with us on our interview today, but we won't have time for. So please, 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 as her book comes out, be sure to pick up a copy. I don't know if you want to spill the beans on the title.
Not quite yet.
Okay. No worries. I didn't know if you had mentioned the title yet, but I wanted to give
Well,
you
I
the.
guess I can kinda say it because I kinda have a pre-funk on my Instagram, so if you go on there, you'll kinda see the pre-funk.
So go
So I
check
might
out
as
her
well.
Instagram. You don't have to say anymore. Go check out her Instagram. What's your Instagram?
Well, if I say the Instagram, you're gonna know the title.
Oh.
So I might as well say it. So the book is called It's a Beautiful Mess,
Mm, love that.
and Healing from Trauma. So basically, on my Instagram handle is It's a Beautiful Mess because the beautiful word was taken by somebody else. So anyways, so yeah, you guys can follow me there and I'll be posting when it comes out. So I'm
Amazing.
excited.
Yes, and we're excited for you. Well, I want to ask you one last question, especially from the perspective of who knows who might be listening to this interview right now. Maybe they're exactly in the same place where you once were. Maybe they feel like they're in this box, like they can't talk to somebody else about what they're going through and they feel trapped. They feel like they can't be fully vulnerable about everything.
Mhm.
What one piece of advice would you say to that woman or that man right now that might be listening to you?
Honestly, I would say run towards fear
Mm.
because fear is one of the main things that kept me stuck. And I know several other people have dealt with it as well, to where it feels so real and it's like in your face. But once you get through it and you look back, you realize that it is just paper thin and it's not even really, it has nothing and it just wants to keep you stuck and isolated, right? And I was surrounded by it. And so I just encourage people to just like, if you sense a fear, say, I see you, fear, and just go right head on into it. And
So
just,
good.
yes.
So good, friend. Well, thank you so much for that one tip for everybody who might be listening. I know they very much appreciated it. And thank you for your heart to come on today and share just a glimpse of your story and what the creator has taken you through. And wow, is it so apparent that you freaking love him and he has taken you
Oh, thank you.
a powerful overcoming journey, and I'm so proud of you, friend. I'm so proud of you and the courageous steps you continue to take to run towards your own fears and not let anything stay in your way. So we're here
Thank
to tell
you.
you to keep going and that we believe in you too.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jen.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us on The Overcomers today. We hope Cassie's story of resilience has touched your heart as much as it has ours. Remember, no matter the challenge, we all have the power to overcome. Subscribe for more inspiring stories and to join us as we celebrate the strength within us all. Until next time, stay strong, stay hopeful, and keep overcoming.